Hi, I'm Dane Campbell. Welcome to Change with Dane. It's the 22nd of May, 2025. And I wanted to ask you today how you're doing with your thoughts about change. You remember that we talked about two kinds of change: circumstances, or things that happen around us that often force change upon us. And there's also change that we might take upon ourselves to do because we're not gaining the peace or the happiness or the circumstances or outcomes that we want in life because of how things are going. And so we may decide to change in that way. Today, I wanted to talk more about how one can decide what they might want or need to change in their life to find greater peace or happiness. Sometimes part of my work with a client is just examining how things are going and looking at the circumstances or the consequences or outcomes they're getting from either their thoughts or behaviors, and then identifying or helping them to identify things that would give them a different outcome or help them find greater peace or happiness. And sometimes this is can be part of the greatest part of the therapeutic process, is helping people to work through and find those things that might be creating or causing them the most problematic outcomes in life. So I just wanted to talk more today about how you might be able to ask yourself some questions, give yourself some time, and find that insight as to things that could help you bring the greatest peace, bring the greatest happiness if you were to make certain changes within yourself or within your life. I spent 45 years of my life in a high demand religion. Some would call it a high control religion. There were a great deal of expectations placed upon you. You were supposed to meet certain milestones in your life and certain points in your life at certain ages, and all with being that the level of service and the level of giving that you offered to the church, to God, to the people around you would increase over the course of your life. With this kind of a situation, there is honestly very little time to explore and ask yourself, are the things that I'm doing truly bringing me happiness? Are the things that I'm doing going to bring me the joy that I want, or the kind of life that I want to have the kind of outcome on a daily, weekly, or at the end of life basis that will truly make me happy, or that will truly give me peace? We all belong to organizations that have expectations for us. I was also in the Air Force. They leveled their own expectations to be a successful member. We are in families, and families have expectations. There's really no organization, no entity, no system that doesn't have these expectations. What I would like you to do is just to think for a moment, when you are living up to the expectations of these organizations that you're a part of these systems, of these structures that you're a part of, are the things that they are asking you to do going to bring you joy and peace and happiness? And if not, how can you change that? Sometimes we go about our daily life just doing the motions and we don't even think about it. I've talked about that in previous weeks. And so my hope for you is that you will slow the process down and you will look at the things that you do on a day-to-day basis and just start to ask yourself, are these things that are truly going to make me happy, make me healthy, bring me peace, and bring me success in life? So I want to break this down just a little bit more, maybe to help you understand it. And in doing so, the hope would be that you can do this for yourself and you can gain the insight that you would need to identify particular behaviors or particular thoughts or things that could actually help you find peace and happiness. Now, I think I talked about in one of my previous videos that many things that we do are based upon thoughts and they're based upon behaviors. The things we tell ourselves, the things we think about, and then our actual actions, the things that we actually do. And we do this in a lot of different realms. We do it in our families, relationally, with our significant others, our spouses, our parents, our children. We do it professionally. Anytime that we take on a role in a work environment, we have these behaviors and thoughts and actions that we do that allow us to either be successful or not. We also do this on a personal level, right? Think about the things we eat, the way we exercise, what we tell ourselves, all of the things that we do on a day-to-day basis personally could fit into this realm and into this category. So there's a lot of areas, a lot of different things that you could change or consider changing in your life. There's a lot of different things in any of these realms that could make things better or make things worse. And so there certainly is no lack of behaviors and thoughts that you could consider changing. But what is the thing that could help you the most? That's kind of what we want to identify, right? So if there was one thing that you could work on changing that would make things better, what would that thing be? It might take you a little bit of time and a little bit of discovery to gain this insight for yourself. Sometimes I've worked with clients who have recognized that if they changed 10 things in their life, things would ultimately become much better for them. And they get excited initially with, their list of things and then a plan to work on, 1 through 10 every single day and become a different, better person because of the 10 things that could help them in their quest to find peace and happiness. That becomes extremely overwhelming for the vast majority of people very, very quickly. Remember that I talked about our behaviors being habits, and it takes a lot of effort to change a habit and to work on that consistently and to remind yourself day to day what it takes to make that thing different. And so if you're trying to change, a laundry list of things all at once, I would recommend that you take your foot off the accelerator a little bit and prioritize those things so that you don't wear yourself out and you don't get tired and frustrated with perhaps not making progress because you're so focused on doing so many different things that it becomes difficult to give the energy necessary to make actual change. So let's look at this a different way. There are things that all of us do that might produce a negative outcome. Let me just take an example. If you love sweets and you eat sweets and you do that all the time and you kind of do it without thinking and you don't limit yourself to some degree, that can have a negative outcome in a lot of different ways, right? You can gain weight, might have an impact on your dental situation. So that could be a negative behavior that you could potentially change because it's one thing and you can definitely track that and work on that. So the change might be with a negative thing that you do in your life that would ultimately make your situation better if you were to change that negative thing. The other way to look at this is you may want to implement a positive thing in your life to make it better. So let's say that I want to increase my fitness level. So I would need to decide how I'm going to do that. Do I want to do an increase in cardiovascular activity? Do I want to do that through weight training? So that would be increasing or setting up a situation in which the change would be doing something more to make your situation better or your life better. So there's a lot of different ways to address this and look at this. I don't know that one way is actually the right way. Sometimes people are motivated more by getting rid of the negative. Sometimes they're motivated more by adding the positive. So if you know yourself and you have some insight into how you work best and what is more motivating for you, then I would highly suggest that you set up the change in a way that is going to increase the likelihood of a positive outcome. And that's where you need to take a little bit of time to gain the insight into what does motivate you and how you are going to be able to make the most positive progress with whatever those changes might be. Change can be a behavior, and the two examples I just gave you were behavior type changes. Change can also be our thoughts. If you beat yourself up unnecessarily for mistakes that you make, if you put yourself down with your thoughts, saying that, maybe your internal dialogue is saying, I'm not good enough, or I need to feel shame about X, Y, and Z, or your thoughts lead to anxiety, those things can be changed also. So the idea I wanted to project to you today is to just take a little bit of time and to gain a greater insight into that specific thing, small thing, that might bring some greater peace, some greater happiness into your life. And the process of gaining the insight is a change in and of itself. And to do this can create a cycle of positivity and change. It will help you to feel like you have an ability to work on and oftentimes master some things that can enrich your life, reduce negativity, increase peace, and ultimately help you feel better about who you are and what you're doing with your life. So my hope today in you listening to this and me chatting with you is that you will take a little bit of time to gain insight into a thing that could potentially bring you greater peace or happiness if you were to change it. And in the future, we'll talk more specifically about how you might want to think in terms of setting up a situation to reinforce and help you to make lasting change in your life. If you made it this far, I appreciate you listening. I hope you'll subscribe and I hope you'll like. And if you have any specific questions for me about change, please put them in the comments. I'll answer those, and either to you directly or in future videos. Thanks for watching. Take care.